want this to be too formal, guys, so if you guys want to ask me any questions, just jump in. You don't have to raise your hand, just jump in and make me feel more comfortable when we can just share some ideas. A little bit about me is that I was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. Right. What's up?
Or no.
South side.
Or no. Please, Southside, please.
Southside.
Southside gets enough credit.
Right, y'all like the underdogs, right?
Yes, we are. So I like to talk about the west side because when I was a little kid, I first met Dr. King on Lindale when he came to Chicago to demonstrate, and he came by way of my neighborhood to go to Cicero, Illinois, but he stopped off in Lindale. I was a little guy. I had to be like maybe 10 years old. But I remember someone saying that there was a black guy around the corner there that was famous and was known for protesting. They said it was Dr. King. But at that time, you say Martin Luther King. So me and a few of my other little friends, we ran around the corner because he was definitely right in the ghetto. He was living right in one of the same kind of houses we were living in. And I had a chance to meet him. But don't forget now, when you're 10 or 11 years old, you don't know where you're living is the ghetto. I mean, that's your home. I didn't know it was the ghetto until I went to college and they told me, oh, you live in the ghetto. So, but that was our home, and that's where we lived. And so I know this is about Dr. King, and I'm kind of trying to tie it in there because my generation was pretty much on the borderline with Dr. King and the Black Panthers and Malcolm X and Huey Newton and all those guys and Stokely Carmichael. My generation was more towards Malcolm X and Huey Newton. My mom then was more towards Dr. King. But I was kind of young enough where I can go either way. And we listened to Dr. King, and what he did say make a big difference. It did help us to learn how to demonstrate and how to, just be proactive in a different way. But in all honesty, we weren't about to get hit on this side and turn to the other side and love our neighbor. That's just the way my generation was. And that was right when we were starting to see who we are, to know who we are, and to start growing our hair. You know, prior to that, nobody had afros. And even in our own neighborhood, if you grew an afro, some old time would tell you, go cut your hair, boy, you know. So I was always right there in the middle. So I had a chance to interact with both sides. Except the Black Panthers was almost a little bit too radical for some of us, because a lot of my friends, my whole neighborhood was split. Part of us was Dr. King, part of us was a little bit more militant. And we found that the militant group, they didn't have a lot of individuality as far as what they thought and what they wanted to say. They were kind of reiterating what Huey Newton was thinking or what he said. And, you know, there was that other little small segment, which was where I was, and we wanted to be a little bit more independent. Because my mom's generation with Dr. King was pushing, go to school. Make sure you go to school. And that's what we all did. We felt that that was our only way out of the west side of Chicago, was to go to school, either by sports and, God forbid, academics. You know, either way. That's what we were trying to do. So I was involved in a lot of demonstrations over there. When Dr. King got assassinated in '68, if you look at some of those documentaries that they made of him in the '60s, you'll see a bunch of young guys, and we were demonstrating up and down Madison, and we really burned the city. That's really what we did. So I say all that to kind of give you just a brief background where I come from, because that laid a foundation without me knowing it, how I was going to approach being an adult and eventually be an artist, even though I didn't think that's what I was going to wind up doing. So as I look back, I can say that those interactions that I had with the nonviolent demonstrators and the more militant demonstrators kind of set a foundation in how I was going to do my art and how I was going to proceed forward. It took a few years for me to finally decide which way I wanted to go. So I figured that one of the best ways for me was art. I think art, all the arts, it's just such a powerful tool. Whether it's visual arts, whether it's music or rapping or movies, art, man, we can just change the world. In visual arts, I really think we can really get our point across. Because if it's true that one picture is worth 1,000 words, then every picture that I do, and if I'm honest about it, can influence or at least halfway get you on a path to start thinking about what's going on. So that's pretty much what you're going to start seeing. And this first image here, it's called Rage, South Carolina 9. I don't know if you guys remember, I think about 3 years ago, when this young white guy in South Carolina knocked on this church door, and they were having a prayer meeting. And they let the guy in. He came in, and he asked, where was the pastor? The pastor was sitting there with the group while they were praying. He sat next to the pastor, and the first person he killed was the pastor. He shot the pastor, he shot the other male, and then he just shot all the women. Except for, I think, 1 or 2 that got away. Well, that pissed me off, you know. And that's what you see right there. And that's what it's called. That's Rage. We're going to kind of skip some of this, and I want to make sure we got time to do the drawings. But this is a collaboration that I'm dealing with inner city kids. I think I have maybe 1 or 2 of these you can see. What I wanted to do was get a raw and true opinion about what you guys are thinking about. First, I was going to do this graffiti on my own. And I'll say, here I am, a middle-aged man trying to interpret what you think. And I couldn't do it. It wouldn't be authentic. So I went to the west side of Chicago, which is where I'm from, and I went to one of the schools, and I grabbed the principal, and I got permission from the principal and the chair of the department that I wanted to put up some drawing paper throughout the cafeteria where all the kids were. And I wanted them to express totally exactly what they feel. There would be no editing. The principal cannot tell them they can't do it. No one can interfere, period. And that's what came out of it. You can see some of the language on there is totally theirs. And then as I continue to work with them, I worked with them for about maybe 3 weeks. And I noticed some things that came out from the way they're thinking that I never thought about. I mean, you're talking about 16-year-olds, they know what the suicide hotline number was, the 1-800 number. I mean, that blew my mind. I never knew that. I don't even know what it is now. But they were writing that down. They wrote about what they think about this administration. They wrote down about love, about gangs, the whole thing. But this was just pretty much from an African American point of view. I wanted some Latinos to participate too, because the school was mixed. So I want the Latinos to get in here and to write. I think I got another slide where you see them, and they wrote in Spanish. And they tell me I don't want to know what they wrote. So if you know any Spanish, you can tell me, because at this point in time, I still don't know what some of them wrote. But I wanted them to be very honest also about what they're thinking. This is some of the millennials who are protesting, like I said. And you can see the groups are mixed. It's not all black folks. It never has been. For us to get anything changed in this country, we always had to partner, with other folks who felt the same way we did. In my generation, we had the same thing. So we called them hippies, and they were participating in some of our protests. And but in this case, it's just the young millennials in general. They appear to be violent. They're not violent. This is still a non-violent activity. It's just that they're out in the street, protesting. This is the one you just saw. All my images are pretty much bigger than life. Matter of fact, that image is about that size. That drawing is that size there. And what I wanted to accomplish here, first of all, you see the title is Democracy Entanglement, which I think is pretty much, you know, a contradiction of what's going on in the country. And you can see these are two college students, millennials, which is what I wanted. And the police pulled them aside, you know, because they were protesting. And he thought he would just handcuff them and put them there for right now. Throughout my slides, you're going to see a cigarette in their nose. And the cigarette acts as a, you know, it's an insulation. It protects them from the tear gas, which I didn't know until I started doing my research. So they would put the cigarette in there, let the tear gas go by, and they go right back out and keep demonstrating. This is also done in charcoal and pesto. This is disenfranchised, demanding respect. There's a town, I think it's called Catalina in Spain. And a few years ago, they're trying to separate themselves from Spain. It's a small town. And the way that they protest in Spain is that they will have these red noses. They put these noses on. And that'd be their way of protesting against the establishment there. I said, oh, it's a good idea. I'll put that on some of my homeless people. Because he's asking to be respected. And he also is an activist. So I grabbed these guys off of, you know, downtown on Wabash. You know, you see them down there, they're almost invisible. But I see them. And so the only thing I probably change is just put the nose on there. Everything else is what they wear. You'll see them wearing big clothes and this little backpack. And the X there is pretty much what you think it is. It's an unknown thing. My job is to try to react to what's going on and not to tell you everything that is happening, because I am interested in what my audience is seeing. Because if I did my job right, you know, we can all go in the same direction. You don't have to see everything that I see, but I at least want to get you on that path of what's going on. So anyway, this is his way of protesting. It's another young protester. Once again, this is still dealing with that, the ambiguity of contradiction in our society. I grabbed this young guy on the street and asked him to pose for him, and he did. So I just wrapped him up almost like he's a mummy, and put that cigarette there so he could still breathe. And that's what that cigarette is pretty much. It's still talking about the tear gas that has been put out there to support the protesters. Pretty much the same type of deal. This is the homeless guys that I found on the street. You will notice that my heads are small and my body is big. The body is composed of 8 heads. So to get my point across, I changed the body structure to like 12 or 14 heads. So that means that everything here is small and everything there is going to be big. And if you look at it, it looks like he's just transforming from one state to the next. Especially when you can look at the top here. He's coming from here and he's emerging from there. So I just kind of played with that, and I like I'm thinking about some of the symbols that I saw in Egyptian sculpture where the kings, you know, have this long stylized beard, and I kind of wanted that on there. So he has a lot of things that's happening. I think it's a very interesting piece of work. Once again, this is, like I said, this is the graffiti that is attached to this young man here. He's a young millennial. I caught him downtown Chicago. I catch a lot of these homeless guys around. I'm sure you guys know where DePaul is. Columbia College, it's all around Babo in that area. So, but you see a lot of these young, some of them are schizophrenic, and this young guy here, man, he couldn't stand still. He's constantly moving. But I was actually able to get him to stand still long enough for me to take a picture of him. And I took a lot of liberties. He's probably about maybe 30 pounds smaller than that. But like I say, I exaggerated with the hands and the arms. I still wanted the graffiti in there. And I just wanted to capture this moment, this contemporary time that we're living in. This is part of that series I told you about, South Carolina 9 with the Rage. This is just another version. This is one of the protesters who's running away afterwards. And sometimes I could draw the face and make it very representational, depending on what it is I'm trying to do. But this young man has got so much frustration and agony in him that the only way I can really portray him is to abstract it. So he is somewhat abstract, but at the same time, you can see some representation in there, and you can see that his head is a lot narrow. And like I say, I take liberties with it. I'll stretch his head. I'll make his hands larger. I just play with it just to get my point across about how I feel and what's going on in the country at this particular time. I'm only interested in right now. I very seldom go back. I don't do anything in reference to slavery. I do very little that is reference to that black folks was treated in the past, because there's too many artists that's already out there that's done it much better than I can. So I just try to focus on what you guys are about, like right now, and what's going on with it, and try to stay as contemporary as I can. This is another one that I did with the kids in the high school. I thought this was really interesting because the first thing that they wrote on there was help. And I don't know if I got any Spanish folks here. If you see it, do you know what any of that means? Huh? Can you read any of the Spanish in there?
Like here, que lo hace. Don't know what that means, but it's here.
I don't know what it means either, but I got a hunch.
Maybe this.
Is what? You should do it.
Whoops, my bad.
Maybe you see a lot of that is about that. It's about guns. But anyway, that's what's on their mind. So I didn't want to influence them and tell them. I didn't want to tell them what to do or what to write. This is a guy more or less from my generation. He's like saying, okay, I'm observing everybody, what's going on, and so I call him an old school activist. Instead of just one cigarette, he's going to have a cigarette and a cigar. And he's going to deal with all of it. And at the same time, this is acrylic wash or paint that's coming out. So it can be interpreted a lot of different ways. You can say the guy got knocked in the head. You can say whatever. I don't want to tell you everything. I want you to kind of interpret it. Once again, the yellowish still represents caution.
Yes. Earlier you said that you wanted to inspire the youth to leave the ghetto, right? So that is there any art that inspires them to improve the ghetto? I mean, to make to come to the community table, because I've been working a lot on that, and so many folks have given up hope to that government actually works for them, but government won't work for them unless they start participating, voting, and then actually becoming involved, understanding the needs, and then advocating for the needs of the community. So is there any work that inspires them to do that? Because it's very hard if you have something that that you want for people to become inspired to realize that their voices count, I really wish that you would let me know, and I would love to share your work with the work that I'm doing.
I can say that I'm just taking a different approach, but there are some murals I know all over the west side, especially around Central.
That you created?
No,
Oh,
the
okay.
students, the young kids, the young millennials have created a lot of positive work on murals in the area, and they are active in that particular community. It's just that I just have taken a different approach.
I see.
I'm just focusing more on the older ones who are out in the street protesting. Would I change? I'll probably change eventually, but from what I've seen, a lot of people just don't ask this guy over here on his cell phone, what is he thinking? You know, or what this guy is thinking, what that guy's thinking. Nobody asks them. So I'm asking, what do they think? What do they want to do? And that's where I am with there. You know, but to answer your question, there are some others out there that's dealing with it on a more positive level. This is more or less therapy for me because I get frustrated when I see what's going on. And I'm just trying to put it out there and show it. That's just a close-up. Once again, this is still a young millennial who's taking a break. You can still see the cigarette in his nose, and you can still see the exaggeration of the body itself. Like I said, they'll take the cigarette for the tear gas, and when the tear gas gets in their eyes, they just lay them down and they pour milk in the eyes, just, you know, to soothe the eyes so they can continue to go out and demonstrate.
Do you know where they got that information
Where they get the information?
about putting milk on their
I-
eyes?
I don't know, but I know we did it.
Palestinians were tweeting.
Oh, really?
I don't know where this photo is from, but this was happening in Ferguson when the police was tear gassing the young demonstrators. Palestinians who were following the tweets were actually letting them know to put milk on their eyes instead of water because water burns it more. So a lot of people talk about, you know, like occupation in Palestine being no different than, you know, black communities having occupied and being pushed out of their own communities, right? And so the solidarity that was present during that.
Well, that's a good point because some of my images that I got, some of the black folks that you saw on there are really Ethiopians that I got from Israel, because they have similar same kind of problem that we're having right now with a lot of the immigrants, you might say, for lack of another word, that are Ethiopians. So they got a bunch of them there, and they're fighting, demonstrating. So I was able to say, wow, man, this looks like Chicago, you know. So it's just not local in this country, it's all over the world. So you're right, that's pretty much where it comes from. Just want to show once again, this is you guys. You guys are out there demonstrating. You're still following the path of Dr. King. Nobody's really shooting anyone, but you are demonstrating. A little bit different than what we did, but it's pretty much the same thing. I thought this was, I call it an awkward encounter. I think it's such a strange situation is that, you know, I'm facing a black cop and I'm black. And his uniform is to uphold and to enforce the system that is not equal to him nor me. And she's in his face trying to confront him about it. And if you look at his eyes really closely, he's not looking at her, he's looking over her. Because he realizes that she's right. But I'm not sure that she understands his position. So I see a lot of tension there. So I thought I just always wanted to portray that. You guys have any questions on any of these? Anything? Sure. is their way of dealing with the tear gas. Just put on a mask. Once again, this is the milk. You can move. And there's still police brutality even in the demonstrations. And I wanted to, I just wanted to show that also. It just kind of almost speak for itself. Cage Pedroso saying, this is a young guy I saw out near the Culture Center, right when you go down on Randolph and Michigan, when you go into the train, the metro down there. And I found it interesting that the cart that they sit on while they're trying to sell streetwise, I thought it was interesting that the one thing that supports him can also show and be a symbol for locking him up to some degree. So I just took it and put it on top of his head, and I photographed it. And you can tell that he's been through some stuff. If you look, you can see he's been shot right here. So I wanted to show the true rawness of this in general. And this was during the summer, so he didn't have no shirt or anything on, so I shot him real quickly. Oh, one more thing. In my own way, if you don't know, the black colors, the symbol for the black flag is red, green, and black. And I will put this in here. Now again, you'll see me stick a green in here and a red here, and naturally he's black. So it's my way of incorporating, you know, a black identity. And that's it. Don't shoot. Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah, just a quick transition to the workshop. And if there are questions, we'll take that in once I'm done with my comments. But those of you who are here for the workshop, we go till 5. If you need to leave a little bit earlier, that's fine. But if you are here for the actual workshop, we ask that you come up to the empty chairs where maybe there's no one sitting right now, and then I'll bring up the paper, and Mr. Howard will also bring you the rest of the supplies, and we'd love to be in community with you as he shares his talents with us in that way. But are there any questions about some of the images that he just showcased, some of the art that he just showcased? I know there's some questions in here. Fatima, we'll go with you first and then work our way around the room. Yep.
So first of all, I really appreciated your art, and I thought it definitely evoked a lot of emotion, and especially the exaggerated features and the black and white elements of it. My question was, so all of your art pieces are focused on African American men, and I wanted to know what compelled you to focus on them, and whether you thought about focusing on other parts of the African American community, like African American women or people who don't identify as either.
Well, I did a whole series a few years ago on African American women, and I wanted to portray black women from my old neighborhood. I wanted to show them, I like to do everything as raw and authentic as I can. So I have done that series, and I have shown that series at other universities. So, but as of late, not to put my sisters down there, nobody is really focusing on black men in the way that I think they should. They always want to, whenever they talk about black men, they always want to bring someone else in there with us. It could be Latinos, it could be Africans. Everybody want to bring somebody else in there with us, but nobody really talks about us. But yet we influence not only the country, we influence the world. But as soon as you ask people of other groups, do you want to share our burden? Nobody wants to share our burden, especially black men. But they love us in their own contradictory way. I want to unapologetically focus on him. I want to show his strength and his intelligence and what he's enduring right now. And that's what I do. Nobody else is doing it. I don't see it. I know we talk about, we draw black men and black people from slavery, we draw black men from the farms, but nobody's really drawing and portraying black men today visually in fine art. You go downtown to the Art Institute, you're not going to see any African American men. You may see women, but they're in a subservient role. So I wanted to show this. I wanted to show it. I wanted to show that all black men are not passive, are not violent, and that we do think and we do change the world. That's my way of doing it. I'm just trying to show it. I know we got problems in our own community. I mean, I'm not naive, you know. But I wanted to show that, man. I want to see it. You think I'm close to it? I mean, you're from this generation. When you interact with African Americans, what do you see? Am I hitting the nail on the head with this?
You pretty much are, because myself, as a gay Native American person, the same thing that stereotypes that black men face, also we Native Americans face, our Native American men also face, because those same stereotypes we have to combat all the time and show that, hey, we Native Americans, we're not violent. We're not all fitting this white man stereotype. We're not all of these things that you think we are. Yes, we are very diverse people, but we're not the stereotype that you're putting us into. And nobody's even talking about. You really don't even see any pictures of Native American men in our institute either. So, to tell you the truth, you find that both when it comes to talking about Native American men and black men, nobody really talks about them. Period. Because we're both in the same boat.
You have a hand here, Mr. Rose.
Hi, I like the young lady's question because I know I'm here for education. I just came right on the end. But
I'm glad to have you here.
And I'm glad that she asked the question because you are exposing the black men for who we are, who they are, other than what they micro, in a magnitude, huge magnitude of being violent. And you explained to her. But I just wanted to reiterate that I'm glad that you're focusing on black men. I highly elevate them whenever and wherever I can. And just glad to hear your explanation that you gave.
Thank you. See, guys, that's why I started out by telling you where I come from, because I was real young and I saw all this is a base for how I do this work right here, and try to be authentic with it. I mean, I'm not making the images up.